It is about 4:32. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody would please stand and recite the pledge. I pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to
to the republic
for which
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
too bad Zoom can't handle everybody talking at once.
I know. I think it was a real mashup there, but that's all right. Okay, public comment, correspondence.
So just a little while ago, I sent everybody an email that I had gotten from the Candlewood Lake Authority. I can certainly speak to it if you didn't have a chance to review it. Basically, they were looking for two things from us. The first was to okay them re-stenciling the boat ramp, and truthfully, I didn't realize that they had actually ever done it, but they actually did back in 2000, probably 15 or 16. And the second was about the lake stewards being present from time to time to train people on the invasive mussels that they're trying to keep out of Candlewood. So I wanted to make sure that the commission was aware of those two items and to see if anybody had strong feelings on either one of those and possible approval for both of those items to go forward.
Just a question on the lake stewards. Are they just going to be doing water sampling at the boat ramp on the dock, or where are they going to be?
So my impression of the program, and I read through the slides. I can send you a link because I did not. The link was embedded in the email, so I didn't send that on to you. But basically, they're looking for just kind of an educational component, so that way they want to let the boaters know who are coming in to launch their boats at not only in Brookfield but any of the town launches and any of the state launches about how you can clean and drain your boat to help stop the spread of the different invasives within the lake communities. So they would have somebody on site really for educational, and then I believe they would also offer at no charge to go ahead and to do some kind of a cleaning or decontamination for the boat. But I can send everybody the full proposal. I believe the education piece was a piece they were hoping to start in 2020, and then perhaps other items to follow for the next year.
Okay, guys.
I have not had a chance. I'm just looking right now, Mary, at the letter. I don't know if anyone else has had a chance.
Yeah.
Has
I looked at
anyone else read it?
I don't have a problem with them doing the stenciling. That's a no-brainer. I just curious about the component of the lake stewards. Is it going to be like, like when we do surveys on the Greenway where you're slowing down people by 10 minutes? I know the reason behind it. It obviously makes sense, but that's a one boat ramp, trailer ramp. People come in and out there, and they're, they got to run all the way back to park the trailer and then come back. I don't know if they're going to want to stop and talk for 10 minutes. That's my only concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I share that. Do you know how it says random, Mary? Do you know how often they would be out there?
The way that it was spoken or explained to me was that they were going to conduct it much like the police might conduct a DUI checkpoint, and so it would just kind of be randomly spread out amongst the lake communities for a day here or a day there, depending on what location they have assigned. So it wouldn't be every day. It would be, I'm estimating, probably a couple of times a month. For some period of time, and I'm assuming they would set up for a day at a time and not for just a couple of hours here or there. But I can get more detail if that's necessary for a decision. They were just looking for, I guess, kind of like conceptually, if we would be okay with them, having somebody on site for an educational component when people arrive, and if they're trying to get some buy-in from not only from Brookfield but from all of the different lake communities around the lake. They think it's going to be a little bit more effective if they can reach all of the different audiences at all of the different launches around the lake.
Okay, guys, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Ed.
Okay. Yeah, my thoughts are if the administration of the town, if it's okay with them, you know, liability and insurance wise and all that. And Mary, you set some parameters where they're not going to, you know, upset our daily running of our programs and beaches and everything. I think it's a no-brainer. We need to be good neighbors and on the lake. So I'm all for it.
And I'm fine with it as well, as long as, you know, it's a random sampling. It's not an everyday thing that's going to disrupt usage. I think that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Right. But
Renee?
Mary would have to approve. Mary, you would approve all the times and the dates so they don't interfere with us.
Yes, we would work with them. We would try to make sure that we're not going on, you know, like Labor Day weekend as an example. We might want to set some parameters by which we think they're going to be at our busiest times. And Ed, you're correct. We would further have this passed by town administration before making a final decision and getting back to Kennewood Lake Authority.
Yep, well, I'm for it.
Okay, I agree, Mary, and some of the parameters might be if there's, you know, 2 or 3 boats looking to launch, that perhaps that's not the time to stop and ask somebody, you know, to hold up. As long as they're respectful of people trying to get on the lake, I'm fine with it. Anybody else?
They're going to be,
Yes.
are they going to be trained by the Candlewood Lake Authority?
They will be, yes.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. I do. I mean, I don't know how practical it is, quite honestly, because of the way, you know, that boats can get lined up there, and, you know, especially on a weekend, it can be real busy and people are trying to get in, get out. But I do think from the educational component, it's a good idea. You know, we have that boat washing station that no one really uses, and, you know, it would be good education for people, because we get a lot of people that don't know anything about the lake.
Yeah, I agree. And Cassie, to that point, I actually offered that if they had some educational materials that we could actually email out to our current boat pass holders, that we could do that even in advance or outside of this program too, because I do think it's important for anybody who's using the lake to have that information for sure.
No, that's a good idea.
Renee, how about you? How do you feel?
No, I totally agree with you guys.
And Tom?
Yeah, no, I have no problem with it. I think it's fine. I mean, even the aspect of, if you have people line up, if people are waiting to get on the launch, you know, they're sitting there waiting. I mean, that might be the opportunity to speak to them, actually. You know, they've been doing it at Bridge, the Lake Lillonona. There's been a guy from the state there every weekend because it's been so busy. I mean, he goes over and starts talking to people about stuff, actually. I mean, so that would be somewhat similar, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, but see, there you don't need a permit. Anyone can go.
Right,
on.
I understand that. I understand that.
It's really important there. But it's also important for us too, because a lot of people, they might take their boat, you know, somewhere else, fish,
Yeah.
or go to a different lake,
Sure.
and then come back, and then, you know, you put all the stuff on the boat.
Different bodies of water, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Mary, would you like a motion for us to approve it with parameters to be outlined by the department?
That sounds fantastic.
Can I hear a motion from someone, please?
I'll make a motion to approve what Joey said, to approve the stencil of the boat ramps, and then also with oversight by the department approving the lake stewards.
I'll second.
Second? Second from Renee. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay. And Mary, what was the, also, we should have included in that motion, I'm assuming no one has a problem with the stenciling of the
That was the first part of the motion.
ramp.
Yeah,
That was the first part.
I'm sorry, John. It's a little hard to hear. No problem. It's my fault. Okay, very good. Let's see, Mary, does that cover all the correspondence that you received?
It does. Thank you.
No problem. Minutes of the previous meeting. Can I hear a motion to approve them? Is there anyone who was not, I don't have it in front of me, who was not at last month's
wasn't.
meeting?
Brian and Tom.
So there's plenty of us to approve them. Can I hear a motion to approve June minutes?
I'll make a
Renee and
motion to
second.
approve June
I'll second.
minutes.
I think Cassie seconded. So Renee, all those in favor of approving the minutes from June 2020, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Great. Director's report.
So I don't really have much to add to what I had sent out to everybody as our quick update last week. But just to let folks know that we are going to be doing some interviews for a new temporary seasonal grounds position. We lost one person to a different employment opportunity recently. It was in his field of study, so we don't blame him for leaving us, but we were very sad to see him go. And we do still have one employee who's been out on medical since the end of October, so we're looking to hire either one or two seasonal positions who can join us soon and work with us throughout the fall months. And really, with increase in use of facilities, parks have been keeping pace. The grass has been growing. We've had some trees falling on trails. We're trying to keep an eye on the trail systems because they're getting some extra use. And really troubleshooting, irrigation systems and seasonal bathroom systems has been keeping parks busy. But everything is going well on the park side, and everything is going well on the rec side. And we're just in a very fortunate position that people are all really trying to be compliant with what we're asking of them, and we're having just a great summer so far under the circumstances.
Questions or comments? Anyone?
I'm glad to hear that. Great.
I just want to have one question. I may have missed it if it was in a previous email. What did we decide to do with Bethel as far as beach passes?
Thank you. So we kind of left that hanging, and we were going to revisit on or around July 15th. And so what's happening currently with our current Brookfield users is that we are reaching capacity every single weekend, and we are also reaching capacity at least for 2 or 3 slots during the course of the week. And for that reason, I'm going to suggest that we just keep things as is for the rest of this season and then revisit again for 2021.
It's practical.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Everybody else agree?
Yes.
Yep. Sounds like everyone agrees, Mary. I'm glad to hear that the beach is well used and that we're at capacity, but yet people are, keeping their distance and taking necessary precautions and so forth. Not surprised. That's Brookfielders, but good to know. Old business. Department COVID-19 response.
So I kept this mostly on here as a placeholder in case anybody had any specific questions regarding what we've been doing. Right now, all facilities have reopened with just one exception, so the basketball courts do remain closed. I did check in with our health department recently. We were waiting for that phase 3 information to come in the middle of July, and that was delayed. So as of right now, we don't have any new information to report on those, but we are expecting just more discussion to happen that would affect possible opening within the next week or so. So more to come soon, but as of right now, those do remain closed.
Okay.
Mary, what's the status of the Greenway? It's still, what is it, mask, and no bike-in? What is that status of that right now?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. There's been no change to the original opening, so everything's remained the same. The masks are required. There's no running, and there's no bicycles. And everybody needs to keep a 6-foot distance. So there's been no changes at all on that. I do know that the changes that were instituted were very helpful in trying to keep our use numbers a little bit lower and a little bit more manageable. So I think that's been doing their job, but we have not had any discussions or any changes to that since we reopened.
Okay.
Do we want to open that up sometime in August?
What I might suggest is I'm not sure how far out we are from getting any new use numbers from Charles Tracy from the the Connecticut Trail Census. I think maybe we might want to take a look at those numbers, and then we can make some like better educated decisions going forward. If our youth numbers are quite low compared to where they were in March, perhaps it might be worth a discussion. And if they're not as low as we would like them compared to March, perhaps we would want to push that discussion out a little bit, in my opinion.
Okay. I did get numbers for him in June, but we were not included because our usage was pretty low in June because I think it was still closed for much of it. From what I understand, looking at the other 14 or so trails, their numbers were way up. I think summertime and so forth and people getting outside. As you remember, many of them never closed, but even with those trails remaining open, the numbers were up in June. I'm going to guess when the July numbers come out, and he is trying to get them out monthly now to help everybody. I think for us, it's going to be hard to compare because we're going to go from, very low numbers. But I should have those, Mary, I would think in a week or two after the close of July, and then we can take a look to see how it compares to last year and so forth. As soon as I get them, I'll send them out to everybody. Any other comments on that? Good. Okay. Mary, any other comments under COVID response?
Nothing from me.
Great.
Can I just interject one thing? We went to the concert Friday night. Everything was wonderful. If anybody was wondering how the concerts are doing, wonderful. We're going back.
How was a good number of people, Renee?
Very good number of people, I'd say, like more than I think I imagined, but it was wonderful. Okay, we can't wait to go back Friday. It was really, really, it was the most refreshing part was just having that semblance of normalcy for the kids and for us. And we've been doing that on Friday night since my son Alex is about 2 years old. So that was like a big blow for us. So it was wonderful. So everything you guys are doing for that, just keep that up. It was really, really great. Really great.
And everybody was spread out.
Yeah. Everybody had on masks, as they walked, they sat down and we're, right. I mean, even little kids that, Tom, how the kids run in between, it was, and I was apprehensive, you know what I mean? It was fantastic. It was really, really good. I'm looking forward to going back Friday and being able to relax and just.
Was last Friday the first one because the first couple got rained out, right?
No, the Friday before that was the first one.
Got rained out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we requiring people to wear masks once they're at the location?
No, then you could take it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
To and from.
Much like the beach.
Right. Okay.
That's so great to hear.
Beach. Yeah,
really
I guess the beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's little flags in the ground, and people were really just very respectful, and it was
nice.
It was really great. Really great.
Awesome. Great.
This is what we were hoping for, is to start to move toward opening things, but to do so safely. And everything I'm hearing,
it was exactly
around
that, Joey. It was exactly that.
That's absolutely awesome.
I think
Mary,
so.
I wonder in our, on our Facebook page or any newsletter, anything that you send out email, it would be really nice to just thank the folks in town, the community, and just make some comment of how wonderful the community's been about all of this. I think that'd be a nice thing to do.
I think that's a great suggestion, and I'm not sure if it's going to make the cut, the editing cuts, I should say, but the town does send out that monthly Brookfield Spotlight, and I was able to capture a picture with everybody just sitting socially distant in groups, and I'm hoping that's going to be included along with the concert information, because I think seeing that visual too is going to make other people recognize that this is a safe place to go and that people are being respectful, much to what Renee was saying. You're not really sure what to expect before you go, and then once you're there, you're like, oh, this is actually going really, really well. And so we have 2 under our belt so far. Both of them have been very, very positive, and I'm expecting for the rest of the series to continue in the same way. People could not be any more respectful than they're being, and it just makes us so happy to see that.
Totally.
Awesome.
And as long as we're on the topic of I'm so sorry. As long as we're on the topic of concerts, and I know that Dan from IT is on the line, I do want to give a shout out to Dan from IT as well, because on his own time, he has come to check on me both concert nights, because he knows I've not been, very confident in our live stream technology and how to go about doing that. And he came to our rescue last week with some new cables, so we could actually run our sound line right from the soundboard of the band right into our camera, and it worked marvelously. So I just want to give a shout out to Dan, and just, it's wonderful when town departments, support one another when something's outside their area of expertise. And that's just one example. I mean, we're very fortunate. We've gotten lots of support from many different town departments to make all these programs go on. So, but a special shout out to Dan for that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Dan, you can hear it also. A good virtual applause for Dan. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Beach, boat, and tennis fees.
So I kept that on there mostly because in a typical year, we do often go to reduced fees for our passes on or around August 1st, and that's when things begin around Memorial Day weekend. So this year, we all know, is not a typical year. I was going to suggest one of two ways of managing that. Either one, we just keep the fees as they are, or two, if the commission would want to reduce the fees, that we think about doing that sometime, I would say on or around August 15th. Might be a little bit more of a reasonable date considering the length of our seasons this year.
And the season ends for beach and boat on Labor Day. I'm sorry, for beach and tennis, Mary, or is the tennis, what are the deadlines for each of them, or the closure, I mean?
Yeah, so tennis goes through the end of October typically. The boat goes through the end of October typically, and then the beach goes through Labor Day.
Well, my feeling is if you're saying the beach has really been at capacity, I'm not sure of a point to lower fees. It seems popular, and it doesn't seem like we're struggling to get people to come in and use it unless you feel that slows in August. And as far as the boat and tennis, there's a lot of the season left. Are the numbers good there, or would you like to raise the numbers, the usage numbers? That would be my only consideration for lowering fees if we were looking to raise the numbers there.
Yeah, everything is well used, and I would think that we sold at least 2 and possibly 3 boat passes today. So they're really flying off the shelves. I think a lot of people are looking to purchase boats, whether they're car top boats or trailered boats for use as a socially distant activity this summer. So I don't see us needing to reduce those fees in order for them to still remain popular.
How about anybody else? Comments? Anybody else on that?
No, I agree. There's
David, is it?
well used, no reason to drop the fee. It's like Mary said, it's very popular this year. I think a lot of times when the beach maybe becomes less popular in August, August is a big vacation month when people go away, and I don't think a lot of people are going away this year. So I think it'll still be.
Sounds like we all agree to leave the fees alone. Yes?
Mhm.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, Mary. Let's see. Anybody have any other questions or comments for Mary on any old business, COVID or beach or fees? So Mary, we'll move on to new business, which is the facility reservations after August 1.
Thank you. Okay, so we continue to get questions about facility reservations. We have a lot of interested people for family use, as well as some organizations that are looking for use. And thinking about the facilities, in my mind, I think there's something about indoor, and then there's something about outdoor, and I do see a big distinction. And I mentioned in information that I do believe that the best decision for the town would be to keep the Lakeside Community Room at the beach closed for the rest of the season. Based on the size of it, we can only socially distance, 15, 17 people in that space. Then it becomes the responsibility of the town to make sure that people are being compliant with that. And that becomes a little trickier because we don't always have staff in that space, especially after Labor Day. And so I think it's just a lot of responsibility put onto the town, and I think that we would be just better served keeping that particular space closed for rentals for the season.
And the season ends in November?
The season for the Lakeside Room typically goes through Columbus Day weekend.
Okay.
Middle of October. What's the amount of requests that you're getting? Are they, requests for 25, 30 people, or are they 15 people?
Yeah, the requests that we've been getting recently have been really more for the 30 people. Some people still want to have, graduation parties, birthday parties, and that's fine. But I think, as a town agency, we do have some responsibility to make sure that if we're allowing that kind of use, that we do have the space in which those activities can safely take place. And I don't think that we have that right there.
Okay.
And I think it's safe to say
Go ahead, John.
I think it's safe to say, to people when they ask for it, and just say the answer is, the space is too small to allow for social distancing, so it's not open this year. Because people will say, I got 15 people, and then bring 25. So,
Right.
and that is a liability.
Yeah. That's true. That's really hard to control. And we see that. We're hearing that on the news all the time, that, they say it's going to be 10 people, and then it's, Mary, how many requests would you say? Because we're really talking about August and September. Could you somewhat number the requests? Are we talking you've had 4 requests or you've had 10 requests?
So I think right now on the books, we probably have another 2 or 3. We had several throughout the summer before COVID even began. And so we've canceled everything through the end of July. And August 1st was our next revisit date, which is, right around the corner now. So we haven't been actively taking reservations because we weren't sure. And we didn't want to have people counting on space in August when we really had no idea if we were going to be back open. So we have a couple of people who have expressed interest, but if we were to open and advertise that we're open, we could theoretically have more interest than we have right now.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm always so mixed when it's, a taxpayer building, but we are responsible for the safety. And if you said to me that a family, that I don't know that each family member has to socially distance, X number of feet, but no one has a party with just immediate family. It's always going to be extended family or friends. And I think that's the answer. We just can't socially distance everyone to the 25 persons that we're being held to. It sounds like we're only 2 months left to go. It's really unfortunate for everyone, even for us, for revenue, but it just sounds like I'm leaning that that's just the right thing to do, is just keep it closed. Anybody else?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. If we can't, you're responsible, as you said, for the health, the welfare, and safety of the people there. And if we can't do that, we shouldn't do it. But also, we should, at the end of August, look at it again. But as of now, I say we go ahead and not just what you want to do, Mary. Don't rent it out.
Yeah, that's true. We could do that. We could just continue it through August and revisit it. Anybody else have a comment or input? No, you guys want to?
I don't think it makes any sense. Given the climate right now, people are getting a little overly comfortable, and like you say, they may say they're going to have 15 people, and then they have 25 or 30, and it's just not worth it.
Okay. Who would like to not revisit it September 1, but to just set the policy right now that we're just not going to rent it through the end of the season, which is October? Raise your hand if that's what you would like, not to revisit it.
I think that makes the most sense.
1, 2, 3, 4. And John and Ed, you would like to revisit it
I think we
September 1?
should. I think we should. It's a short conversation, and
I do
a lot
as
can
well.
change.
Yeah, a lot can change in a
Is
month.
anybody else, are you guys, Renee, Cassie, Tom, open to revisiting it? You can certainly have the same opinion. Yeah. Okay, Mary, why don't we revisit it for September 1? Chances are we're going to leave it alone, but at least, you know, everybody can take a fresh look at it.
Okay, I think that's very reasonable. So that was specifically for the Lakeside room, correct? And then
Yes.
we need to decide how we want to manage the bandstand and Cadogan Pavilion, if they're going to be managed the same way or separately. And I'm pulling them out for a couple different reasons. One being that they are outdoor spaces, and I think there is a lot of difference in indoor versus outdoor right now, and the ability to social distance outside the boundaries of those, I think, also exists. That doesn't exist inside the Lakeside room. With that, we have had some different requests for use of spaces this year than we receive in a typical year. We've been getting requests for people who want to have wedding ceremonies in particular, and these are people whose wedding plans have been disrupted and that can't go forward with their regular or had intended plans, and they're looking for a place to have a small ceremony with just immediate family, and we're talking about 15 people. And I have to say that it's been really hard to say no, so I said, well, let me talk to the commission about that and just see how the commission feels, and if we can make some kind of carve-out exceptions for maybe some things that are deserving of carve-out exceptions. I do think that if people aren't setting up chairs, if they're coming in, they're having a ceremony, and they're leaving, and the whole event is going to take a half an hour, I think that perhaps we have some flexibility to say yes in that situation.
Comments? Renee, how do you feel?
I'd be okay with that.
So Mary, where is our policy stated right now? I like a case-by-case basis, but if we have a policy in print somewhere, I don't want to raise issues where, you know, we do a case-by-case basis and then people say, you said it was, you know, we couldn't use it, and now we see that you're using it here and there. So do we have like a firm policy somewhere in print, if you will?
So we've had a very firm policy, and it's just been no reservations whatsoever through August 1st, and it's been very easy to state because it's been very clear and consistent across. So you're right, Joey. If we were to say yes to some other things, it would definitely open the door for people wanting to kind of have the opportunity to kind of plead their case and have us consider what their use is going to be.
Do we want to set a policy? Go ahead, Kathy.
I'm sorry. How do you feel about that, Mary? That's going to kind of
I can't hear her.
for you.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that question, Cassie. I mean, I can think of, you know, some lines that we could, you know, kind of lines in the sand. So if somebody's asking us if they can go and stand up inside of a bandstand for 20 minutes, you know, there's no chairs, there's no seating, there's, you know, there's no setup. I see that very different from somebody asking us if they can have a birthday party or some kind of different event that would be a longer duration. And so, you know, in my mind, if we say yes, it would really hinge on, you know, the duration of the event, you know, the small number of people, and probably, you know, the risk to the town, really. You know, is there a risk to the town for having a 15 or 20-minute wedding ceremony, and does that outweigh the desire of the town to be helpful to people who have already, you know, missed out on so much. But every time you do open the door, then it does create more work, because then you do have to look very carefully at everything and try to work out, you know, all of those details. So if we could perhaps talk about having some kind of a policy that we're not going to be doing any kind of parties, we're not going to be doing any kind of events, and and that weddings, weddings would be considered on a case-by-case, or ceremonies would be considered on a case-by-case basis, and then perhaps organizational use by clubs would be considered on a case-by-case basis. That might cut down the number of things that we actually need to look at and dive into. That might be a good line.
Could we just have a policy? And that's my main concern, is that we have to have, if we have a firm policy now, we have to have a new policy that protects us so that it doesn't open the door too wide. Could we upgrade our policy to say, duration of 30 minutes or an hour and maximum number of people 15? Is that the way you guys see going about this?
I think so. And no seating, it's a standing 30 minutes, 15 people, 16 people limit. If you're going to limit, that's the way to do it.
Literally
Yeah.
list. Yep. Ed?
Yeah, I agree with what Cassie just said. And I think during this COVID-19, the town reserves the right to do things a little bit different and make exceptions and for the safety of the public. So, I have no problem with you drawing something up, Mary, or case by case deciding on what's, going to be approved and what's not going to be approved.
John?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we want to give a little bit of leeway so people can, like you said, get back to feeling a little bit of normalcy, but do it within a safe reason.
Renee?
Yep, I agree.
How about you, Tom?
I'm fine with it.
You good?
Yep.
So Mary, something that says we are, updating our policy or happy to, whatever, for very, very small gatherings of no more than 15 people for X amount of minutes, blah, 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 Does that work for you, Mary?
Yes, absolutely. And I was kind of thinking along those same lines. The timing, the number of people, and the fact that people aren't sitting down, to me, are the three main criteria, I think, for us to be able to say yes pretty easily.
You ask them to social distance as well.
Yes, and truly, the couple of people that have called in with these requests are truly willing to do whatever is asked of them just for the opportunity to try to have something special for their very immediate family. So I do think that people would be very compliant with wearing masks and being socially distant, and honestly, anything else that was asked of them.
And
Yeah,
I think it's important, Mary, in the language to put that it is at the sole discretion and decision of the department, so that gives you a little meat, and potatoes if somebody kind of presses you, so that we make it clear that these parameters, case by case, sole discretion and decision of the department in an effort to, open this up safely.
Right. And that's due to the COVID-19.
Right.
And this isn't about bringing revenue in. This is about doing the right thing for people that need it.
Absolutely. We see what's happening in other parts of the country as they're, opening up too quickly or gathering too quickly. So I think, we're all watching what's happening when we move along too quickly. So I think we've done a great job. It's so nice to see what is open in our town. And as Renee and others have said, that everybody is really just doing a wonderful job as a community and as steady as we go. And I think it's really important to not go too fast.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Mary, do you need you don't need a motion. That's something you can update.
I think I can update it. So no seating, 15 people, no more than an hour, and at the sole discretion of our department. And then, of course, if I find myself in a quandary, I know that I can reach out to my support system of the Park and Rec Commission for opinions if there's something that's on the line that I would like to run by somebody.
We can be the bad guy, Mary. That's fine.
We're going to send Kathy down there. Kathy just volunteered. I saw her hand go up. Sounds good. Is there anything else? I think that was the last item on the agenda. I know, Mary, you sent some things to us. I didn't get a chance to look at all of it. Is there something there that you needed to cover with us?
You know, I did send something else, and I totally honestly forgot to mention it during the director's report, but our phone has been ringing off the hook in here in a really good way, but we've been answering, you know, more phone calls than we can ever remember answering before since the end of June. And so I reached out to Dan from IT, and I asked him if he could pull the report for me just so we had an idea of how many phone calls we were actually getting. And so, you know, in full disclosure, we can't really, you know, say if these were voicemail phone calls, if they were answered phone calls, if they came in during our business hours or outside of our business hours. But Dan was able to run a report for us, and you can just kind of look through and you can see the growth and the number of phone calls from the beginning of June and then to July. And it's really interesting because we always think, wow, you know, Mondays are really busy in here. It always seems like every Monday. And then when you look at the phone call log, the log supports that. The day that Beach Passes went on sale, we actually had 190 incoming calls that day, which works out to about 24 phone calls an hour. And so it kind of gives you like a little bit of a glimpse, if you think about it like that, of how very busy we have been on many days. And that was our busiest day, but we've had other days. We had 173 phone calls coming in, 135, 116. So, you know, Liz has definitely been very, very busy on the phones, and Dan and I certainly support that, you know, as much as we can as well. But a lot of good things happening, but a lot of hard work from the administrative support in our office to make those things happen. So just wanted to make the commission aware of that as well.
I see that. I'm looking at it right now. I can see the spike. So is this something you think you can handle throughout August? And I'm thinking it might slow a little in September. I know at one point we had discussed that the staffing at Parks and Rec hasn't changed in years and years. But do you feel you can handle it, Mary, through September, or through August, I mean, or should we have a temp in the office?
Thank you. You know, I would like to think that we're kind of on the downturn of the bell curve here. I think that that our busiest days are probably behind us. And truly, this was just more for an opportunity for me to really recognize Liz and a lot of her efforts that people don't really have, they're not able to see them, you know, kind of numerically like this. But if you think about, you know, how many times one answers a phone call and spends time with people every day, and we have heard from residents who have been very, very grateful for the amount of care that's been shown to them, and we're explaining policies and signing them up for beach passes, and Liz has just done, you know, a really nice job with that whole process as well. And I wanted the commission to be aware of that because she deserves some recognition for all of our summer successes as well.
No doubt in my mind, you know, prior to this, but this has just again been an extraordinary time for you guys again, following a macro burst, and you know, it's just. I really can't thank the department enough. You've really kept us so steady as we go. You've made our job easier. And Liz, you know, you've just been tremendous through this. And I have to tell you, you've been a tremendous help to the board. The minutes have been, you review them, and in seconds I can tell her they're terrific. I don't think I've had to change a line of anything that Liz has drawn up. So thank you very much, all of you. And please extend that to Dan as well, and to Chris and his staff.
We will. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you. I have to say thank you, too.
All right. Anything else, Mary?
That is all that I have.
Look at that.
Wow.
I have no AC in my kitchen, and I'm on my, you know, last 5 minutes of tolerating the heat in here. So good timing.
Well,
All
I have
right,
one
so
thing,
that's-
Joey. I have
Go
one
ahead.
thing.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Ed.
I think we should take the August meeting and move it back a week or two. So we'll have
Thank you.
3 or 4 weeks between now. I think we should move it till 8/26. And then, you know.
I was almost.
Right. Then Wednesday, the 23rd of September, and then we'll be back on a 4-week schedule. Is that okay?
I was actually going to suggest if we need an August meeting, and maybe we want to move September in the middle or a little early, and then it gives Mary the whole summer. I'm not sure that we need to meet, and we can always have a special meeting in August if we needed to, but I would vote for something mid-September.
Well, what I think is because it's 2020 and the problem with the COVID and what's going on, that we should meet once a month, all right,
Okay.
until the end of the year. And I think with the Zoom and what we just proved tonight, we can get in under 45 minutes or so. But that's just my thought. I think we should move the August to the 26th.
Well, and if you want to revisit policy September 1st, we should
That's true.
meet the end of August,
Right.
Yeah.
I think we
Yep.
should meet only because they brought up at the Board of Ed meeting the discussion about possibly not having programs at school once school is closed at the end of the day.
Yes.
So if they're going to move forward with that, that's going to be a big discussion for us as to what we're going to do about full programming.
Yeah.
Well, I make a motion or a move, if it's okay, to move that meeting of August 12th to August 26th.
I second.
Can we do
All
that,
those in
Mary?
favor?
Aye.
I'm sure we can.
Is that okay with you, Mary?
And you guys can pick the time, anytime you
Yeah, I
want.
don't care either.
So that is a
Yeah.
Wednesday, Ed?
Yes.
Is that a Wednesday?
August 26th.
Okay, that's all I've got. I'll be quiet now.
We don't believe
So
you,
the
Ed.
motion, Liz, you got that right? Motion by Ed?
Are we going to decide the time closer, or are we going to decide the time now?
How does this time or 5 o'clock work for everyone? And I'm usually pretty flexible, but it's nice to be respectful of Mary and the department's time, not having to sit there for a couple hours and come back just because they are so stretched right now. Does the 5 o'clock time work for everybody?
Yes, and we can
next
always
month.
change it. We can always change it as it gets closer and some people have issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's right.
Works for me too, if that's easier for them.
Okay.
Mary, does that work, 5 o'clock?
So 5 o'clock on August 26th.
Yes. How's that sound to you?
That sounds just fine to me.
Perfect.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So Liz, you can put that in the motion that Ed made and Renee seconded.
Mm-hmm.
August
Oh, Renee did.
5
Okay, I was
o'clock.
going to ask that.
I think it was
Okay,
Renee, right?
gotcha.
Who seconded? Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Liz. Okay, I think that's it. Can I have a motion, unless anyone has any other comments or questions, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Cassie? Well, we got a battle for the second. So we give it to John
John
or
can
we
have
give it to Ed?
Doesn't matter.
Give it to
John
Jed.
seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
All right.
Hold up.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate the early time. It was great that we could all agree on that. Everybody have a wonderful August, and hopefully it'll cool down soon.
Be safe.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.